just when you thought you'd heard it all, check this out, right? Okay, so too many autistic people are getting the assistance of the NDIS, which is a National Disability Insurance Scheme. And as a result of that, too many people are being diagnosed as autistic, which means they must be getting diagnosed because they're getting support. And so what we should do is we should cut them off. That's right. Let's cut off autistic people from getting the help they need, because it seems like that's making them become autistic. And this doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Oh, and we've got a report to back it up. What a load of crap. Unedited, unmasked, unplanned. It's on like Donkey Kong. Let's go. Yeah, hey, I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. Welcome and thank you for watching. I'm all about helping you raise your level of understanding, acceptance, and appreciation of the autistic community. So you can be a part of it by just subscribing to my channels, Orion Kelly, that autistic guy, and Orion Kelly podcasts. For those wondering, this is the next in a long series of videos that I like to call something along the lines of unmasked, unedited, unplanned, whatever else. Now, the reason is, this is a video, as opposed to some other videos I do, which are very focused on engaging and educating the wider community. This is a video which is just pure autistic me being autistic me. This is Orion Kelly, that autistic guy, being actually autistic, on camera, on YouTube. So I won't edit this video. If you're interested in a video that could literally go anywhere, that is nothing but just me being me, you've come to the right place. If you're looking for a nice, squeaky clean, tightly edited, beautifully produced video, you are very much in the wrong place. Warning, my friends. Autistic guy being autistic. Here's a trick, by the way. I do this all the time. You get a white bit of paper and you put it up to the camera like this, right? Hold it to the camera. Take it down. Do I look better now? You tell me. I don't know. Does it matter? Not really. Seems to work though. I'm not a technical guy. I don't know how to push all the buttons, do all the things, but that seems to work. So that's not why we're here. Why are we here? You know, honestly and truly, 2023 has been a massive year for me. Like, I feel like I've gone nonstop on trying to do my best to advocate for me, my autistic son, and I guess as a byproduct, the autistic community. I don't speak on behalf of you guys. It's just about me, my experiences, my son's experiences, and hopefully that helps. But it's been a massive year. I feel like I've packed in a lot of advocacy this year. A lot of content, a lot of traveling, a lot of trying to do my best to help people. I even lent my hand to the National Autism Strategy kind of summit thing. I think you guys have seen my videos where I basically got fired from that for being autistic. But I've tried to do my best. Now, there's a couple of things to break in mind. Let's just get straight to the headlines, though. Over the weekend, I was bombarded with headlines that, in effect, was saying that the Australian government and the National Disability Insurance Scheme are going to be cutting back, reining in the access to autistic people. So, autistic people who are diagnosed by a healthcare practitioner, a medically diagnosable disability, who are then applying for and being given funding to help with their day-to-day life, are being cut off or denied future funding on the premise that too much. Now, this is literally, you know, these headlines I saw over the weekend just really upset me because they were very inflammatory. They were like, well, we decided we're going to either kick out autistic people or cut back the access for autistic people to the NDIS, to any kind of supports required for themselves, their carers, their support people, their family, their partner, that kind of stuff, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, it's just bizarre. Okay, so that's the first part. That's that headline. I mean, that would scare any autistic person in Australia. The government have decided, you know what? Too much, guys. We're going to cut it back, make it harder. You shouldn't, you know, we don't like it. Okay, now the second part of this story was, and the reason is because we have this new kind of study, this little research thing, And I'll read it, right from the article. And it says, it's found a plausible link between the NDIS and a rise in autism diagnosis in Australian kids. Okay, so trust me. Now, for starters, this particular, whatever you want to call it, report, study, research, whatever, it's not peer-reviewed. It's a non-peer-reviewed paper, I believe done by someone who's taking leave from their role as an academic or whatever. And from my understanding so far, from reading the reactions to other people like academics at La Trobe University and other academics in the field here in Australia, reading between the lines, they're basically saying, what a load of rubbish. That's just simply not true. They've made a very clear no, that's wrong for many different reasons. But I'll just continue on this. This is the premise, right? So because this research study, which is not peer-reviewed or in any respect, has found that it thinks it's plausible to say, in effect, it's plausible to say that more Australian kids have been diagnosed as autistic because of a national disability or insurance scheme. And therefore, that's the reason why we've got to stop the scheme can't stop helping autistic people. Why? Because it's making more autistic people. It's like a factory. We're producing more autistic people because we're helping them. That doesn't make any sense. This particular, I don't know what you call it, report, study, whatever, it says the number of autistic diagnoses in kids has significantly increased here in Australia over the past 10 years at a much faster rate when compared to other countries like Canada, the US, and the UK, according to this new study by, academics, right? I'm not even going to talk about where it's from. And the lead author of the study said, the NDIS is the key factor unique to the Australian context and potentially explains the additional growth in Australian prevalence. It is plausible that the growth of prevalence rates above the global average in Australia can be attributed to the financial incentives created by government policy, specifically the implementation of the NDIS. Now, this is in the paper this particular person wrote. I think it's called something like Understanding Autism Prevalence. Okay. Oh, jeez. Oh, God. Oh, God. What an idiot. Okay, let's start at the start. For starters. Let's start at the start. Okay, for starters. So, what you're saying, academic, is doctors, medical practitioners, professionals in their industry, you're saying, are in effect being dictated to, being possessed, being overtaken with the power of the NDIS to then use their experience and training and be possessed with the power to diagnose bring me an autistic child to diagnose as autistic. Huh? I said, let me try that again. I can't edit this out. Let me try this again. Bring me an Australian child to diagnose as autistic. Because bringing me autistic kids to diagnose, that's too easy. You know what I'm saying? Hey, this kid's autistic. I can tell you right now. I've done all the tests. They're definitely autistic. I don't need that anymore. The NDIS doesn't. They've told me I just need an Aussie kid. Bring me an Australian kid. Bring me an Aussie. Find me an Aussie kid. Bring him to me. And I'll diagnose him autistic. Duh! You're Australian. Mate, are you Australian? Are you a kid? You're autistic. What? How do you figure that? The NDIS. What an absolutely stupid, fanciful, utterly non-plausible, completely ridiculous argument. The basis of a support system for people with disabilities is causing more people to be diagnosed with a disability. That's plausible, according to this piece of paper, which I'm going to print out and use to wipe my ass the next time I go to the toilet. This is absolutely ridiculous. Now, for starters, you know what's ridiculous, by the way? Access to the NDIS for autistic people wasn't even in conjunction with the same time frame as this kind of over the last period of time, these are the statistics that show. Do you understand how many autistic people in Australia fight for any kind of supports and then could take months to years to even get an opportunity to apply for the NDIS and are still turned down based on stupid scenarios like a functioning level, right? So there are literally, in my opinion, literally thousands of autistic people and their families right now desperately requiring financial support as a result of a medically diagnosed disability and are not getting it now. Oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. You only got your diagnosis to get the support. So why haven't you got the support? Because you can't get the support that easily. It doesn't work like that. Not to mention you've got to prove you're still autistic every 12 months to redo your plan. Oh, okay, tell us more about how you're still autistic. What do you mean you still need help? The point of the NDIS is we give you money to help you with these things and they get better. Oh, really? So you've cured blindness, have you? Have you? You've restored hearing? Are people standing up out of their wheelchairs and walking home? So no, they're not. You don't have, do you see what I'm saying? So what's the difference with autism? There is no difference. I mean, seriously, you put the lives of literally thousands of medically diagnosed disabled people in Australia are being put at risk or ruined by some half-baked, generalised, badly constructed, plausible link. So we can just say this. So, now, by the way, so let's say the diagnostic rates for autistic people are higher than other developed countries. Just for a second, is it possible, guys? Is it possible that that's because Australia has a more sophisticated, more up-to-date, more, in my opinion, acceptable, satisfactory view, understanding, and diagnosis model for autism than America, Canada, or the UK? Could that be a possibility? Could it? Is it possible? And by the way, I already know the answer. Yes. Why? The thousands of comments I read every day on my videos saying, Orion, it's so hard to get diagnosis or support in America. They don't understand the system in Canada. In the UK, it's all focused on kids or this or that, right? There's so many misconceptions and hoops. It's too expensive. I'd never be able to afford it. The waiting lists go forever. Is it possible that it's not an insurance scheme to provide funding for autistic people to improve their quality of life? Is it possible that it's just because it's higher, not because of that, but because simply we have a better healthcare system? We have a better understanding, better working knowledge, a better infrastructure system to diagnose autistic people than other countries. Is that possible? So what they're basically saying is there's no way, this is the thing, right? Our own government in Australia are in effect saying, we think it's more plausible that people are being misdiagnosed, right? Wrongly diagnosed as autistic to take advantage of our insurance scheme. In other words, our access to funding to improve the quality of their lives. We think that's more plausible than us having a good country and doing well. It's more plausible that doctors are being possessed to diagnose Aussie kids as autistic for funding that they can take advantage of, right? As opposed to it being plausible that we just have a good country with a better system, right? Like the government would rather acknowledge shonky doctors and overdiagnosis than maybe we're just better than America, Canada, and the UK at diagnosing autism. Is it that hard? We can't be better. That doesn't make any sense. So let's just cut them off. These arguments are absolutely ridiculous. And this is the thing, right? So let's backtrack. Remember how I talked about, I did a few videos on, there was a Senate committee, a study into the lives of autistic Australians, and the results were released in 2022. Okay, and nothing about it was good. In fact, I don't know what they expected, but the results they got on the life of an autistic Australian in 2022, right, was so bad that in 2023, this year, they said, right, we have to develop a national autism strategy. We have to develop a national autism strategy to try and fix, or be seen is a better way of putting it, to be seen to be fixing what's clearly a horrible life for an autistic Australian. Wow, they were that bad. 8 times more likely to be unemployed. Like 8 times a higher unemployment and underemployment rate. You know, a life expectancy is something like in the mid-30s in modern day Australia. Mental health conditions as a result of our inability to receive any kind of support. Our experiences in the criminal justice system, disproportionate. So, housing, not possible. Like, supports, education, work, training, anything. It doesn't matter. Every aspect of an autistic Australian's life was found and put in writing by our own Senate to be very, very bad. In fact, quite startling, quite horrifying that we're allowing modern day Australians to live like this and say it's okay, right? Okay, well, what are we going to do? We better do something. Let's do a strategy. Yeah, great. What's that mean? Well, that mean I can tell what it means. It means let's get people to talk about what they think will help them. And we'll get Orion, he can host it, right? We'll do it for, we'll get like, 60 autistic people, and we'll give them 1 minute to say what they need to say, right? And then we'll take a quick break and we'll do it again. And everyone will be really happy and they'll be heard, right? And then I'll say that won't work. We need to tell people they're not going to be able to say a lot, right? It's best to be heard in a minute than, go on forever. And they're going to say, no, Orion, you can't. You're not on the same page. You're fired. This is so they've established, our own government have established, our own Senate, that autistic people's lives are horrible. Forget about Australia, right across the modern day world. In fact, across these countries, they're saying they kind of compare us to. Modern day autistic Canadians, Americans, British, everywhere, right, across the planet. Modern day autistic people across the planet Earth have very bad quality of life, right? Jobless, mental health conditions, low life expectancy. Right? We know that. What are we going to do about it? I don't know. I guess we can try to fix it. And at the same time that they're wrapping up, literally consulting with the autistic community on how to make their lives better because we know they're horrific. We've got it in writing. You know what we'll do? Let's cut your funding for support, the funding that helps you try and increase your quality of life. Increase your ability to access the world, to make the world more inclusive for you. Let's cut that, because now we decided, even though your lives are horrible, there's too many autistic Australians, it cost us too much money, and we're going to cut you out, or cut it back, or make it harder. What do you mean? By the way, what's harder? If you've got a medical healthcare professional and they diagnose you as autistic, right? It's a legitimate, proper diagnosis, and you have a disability. What do you mean? What do you mean? Make it harder? Either you want to help our quality of life, or you don't, and that's the other thing. Oh, unless you're like level 3 or level 2, or oh no, you're too high function. You don't need our help. That's crap. Absolute rubbish. All autistic people have daily support needs. Okay, so we're gonna just give some to some, not some to others. And this is the other thing. They can say, the bottom line is, look at the stats, Orion. The NDIS supports more autistic people than any other group of people with disabilities, right? And it's going to cost us billions. It's skyrocketing, Orion. We can't afford this. The first thing I'd say is, that isn't the problem of a person with a disability. If this is set up to help people with disabilities, and there are more autistic people than other groups, and that's going to cost you more money, that isn't the problem of them, right? That's just called day-to-day business, right? If you're going to provide it, so the argument must be, well, we must be serving way more autistic people than anyone else because people are being wrongly diagnosed autistic. This can't be right. It's plausible to say that having this support system in place is causing more people to be diagnosed. But you don't just get it out of the bottom of a cereal box. You've got to go to a professional. So what are you saying? The plausible link is professionals are diagnosing this, as a way of like, what, they're being bullied by the NDIS to diagnose autistic people to try and, because they want to get the money from the government? Do you see what I'm saying? I don't even know where I was going. I've completely lost my train of thought. The thing is, though, the money from the government isn't enough anyway. They go, but all right, it's billions. No, it's not billions. It's billions as a total amount. But hang on a second. So if there's more autistic people, right, then there's more money to pay them, but they're still all getting different amounts. And I can tell you, this is the other thing, right? It's never enough money to provide the people with the supports they need. For example, let's say, you're a parent or a carer of an autistic person who has high to severe daily support and care needs. And let's say, you require a particular, support or care or service on a daily basis. You might be given funding for like an hour a week. Oh, thanks so much, mate. Thanks for helping me. You're helping me with me and my daughter, or me and my son are going to get 1 hour of help a week. That's great. What about the other 6 and almost 7 days? You see what I mean? And here's the other thing, right? The NDIS say, oh, this is crazy. We're spending billions on autistic people. Here's an idea, guys. Stop setting the price like you're in a fantasy land, right? Okay, let me give you an example. I don't know, let's say a shower chair, right? Okay, I go to the shops myself and I buy a shower chair because that helps a person, it could be, let's say it's an autistic person who has mobility issues, or, it's just safer to shower by sitting down, right? Okay, I go to a shop, I find it myself off my own bat, it's $50. I pay the $50, I get the chair, right? Now I can claim that back through NDIS, right? If I make self-managed or something. But let's say the NDIS want to control it, they go, I need a shower chair. The NDIS go, no worries, we've set that price for a shower chair at $300. $300? You can get it for $50 at that shop. So don't look at the autistic people. Look at yourselves as a government organisation and these moron corporations that are literally taking advantage of you. It's like, and here's another thing. Let's say you are a support worker, who, by the way, I love support workers. They're like they are the light of my life. They're incredible. Okay, but put it against other workers. Are all support workers skilled? As in, do they have a level of education or training where you would class them as highly skilled workers? Now, they are highly valuable workers, no question. I'm just trying to make an argument here, guys, from a government point of view. That's all. Okay, so let's say, what's a fair price for a worker who isn't what you would class as the highly skilled category? Okay, or what would you say? In Australia, you might say $30 an hour. Now, there might be Americans going, holy Moses, that's a great... Right, okay. The government go, no, we'll pay them $60. Again, why is that? Maybe it's because, are there corporations that make a living of providing the government support workers? Oh, I'm going to start a company where I'm going to have support workers, right? And even though it's the support workers that I love and are the light of my life and are the best and most amazing people on the planet, God bless all support workers. It's these people above them who are controlling them, right? And running them and going, well, I've got to make money. So I'll tell the government that it's going to cost $60 an hour. You want your support workers for your disabled people? It's going to cost you $60 an hour. Right. And then the government wonder why. They can't afford autistic people. Maybe you shouldn't in the first place be setting shower chairs at $300 and support workers at $60, $70 an hour. Again, I'm not saying they're not worth it, but I'm trying to make it, this is an argument, guys. I'm trying to make a financial argument because they're making an argument that autistic people in Australia should be cut off from all sorts of funding or made reined in or made it harder. Right? Okay, so we can work this through, guys. Let's pay a fair price for products rather than being dictated to. A $50 chair, how much is that? $300. Huh? $300? And once that's gone, by the way, your budget goes down. So you could have had more money to get more out of life if you didn't have to pay $300 for a chair that's $50. Do you see what I'm saying? Or $30 an hour for someone who's getting $70 an hour. Again, it's not about the person. It's about the financial sense here is ridiculous. If you want to fix your budget problem, guys, maybe you at the NDIA and the government should actually look at who's controlling the prices and if these prices are market value and fair. Are these fair market prices? Because they're not. They're bloody stupid, overinflated. And here's the other thing, right? Okay, so there's more autistic people than any other disability on the scheme. That means we need to get rid of autistic people. Now, there's a couple. Let's talk about disabilities. But for starters, let me say, when I did, I'm sorry, I'm like ranting and going fast, but that's what this video is. So toughen up, buckle up, champ. Damn it! I mean, forget what I was saying. Why do you have to explain yourself all the time? When you explain yourself, you forget what you're going to say. I will stop explaining myself. Damn it! What was I saying? Yeah, okay. So I was hosting that autism, summit, the consultation session for the strategy to fix the lives of autistic people, who we're going to fix by taking away their funding to help them have a quality of life. Anyway, when I was doing that, the minister for the NDIS, who at the time of recording this, who presumably will have to resign because this is a horrifically badly worked argument about this kind of funding and research. It's utterly ridiculous. Anyway, at the time of recording, Minister Shorten, the minister, federal minister of the NDIS, NDIA is the agency and the S is the scheme, was a guest who delivered a welcome address, right, on behalf of the NDIS and the government, and this is to autistic people and myself. I was there. I heard it. Talked about, I don't know. Actually, I don't remember a single word he said. The only thing I remember him saying is, once he finished talking, and presumably he talked about how good the NDIS is for autistic people, presumably he said, we serve the needs of more autistic people than any other group of people with disabilities. I'm sure he said something like that. To me, it sounded like maybe he was buttering us up to be wary. Anyway, he just went around in circles, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, Minister Shorten, would you like to stay on and hear some of the thoughts of others? And this is the only thing I remember. I really can't, because I've got another gig. That's what he said. I've got another gig. Right, now, what he's meaning is I've got to go because I've got other work. Okay, great, fantastic. But last time I checked, your gig is the minister for the NDIS. And right now, your gig is at an online national forum of autistic people who have come together to be heard to improve their outcomes, as per a Senate report that said the lives of autistic Australians are utterly horrifying. We have to fix them. We're having a strategy, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to hear you guys and try to fix them. But you have another gig to be somebody. Your only gig is to listen. So I'll do my speech, and then I'll go. Is that listening? No. And here we go. But and it's also, you be honest with yourself. Would you ever listen to someone who you know will give you the argument that goes completely against what you actually want to do? You're not. You will turn a blind eye. You won't turn your mind to thinking about that the counter argument. No one will seek out an argument from someone who they know will be the complete reverse of what they need to hear to do what they want to do. You're not going to do that. Why would you do that? That's human nature. So you say your piece and off you trot, right? So this is the issue. So let's look at it from this point of view. What is autism? Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition, disability. It's a medically diagnosed disability, or I wouldn't be on a disability insurance scheme, right? Okay, so that's what it is. Now, the brain is a very tricky customer. Have we nailed it? Do we know everything about the brain in 2023, 2024? No, we don't. But there's nothing about autism but a different brain. But for your brain being different, you would not be autistic. It's the only thing. Did we know as much about the brain 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago? Well, of course the answer is, of course we bloody didn't. Of course we didn't. Did we know more about the brain 50 years ago? No. Did we know more about the brain 12 months ago? No. A year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago? No, we didn't. We still don't know what we'll know in 5 years. It's the brain. It's a neurodevelopmental condition. It's ever evolving. Is Australia evolving quicker than America and Canada and the UK? Presumably, with understanding and diagnosing. Presumably. Do you see what I'm saying? The idea that this somehow is an argument is a bad argument. Was it easier to diagnose someone as hearing impaired or blind or someone who legs didn't work and they needed to use a wheelchair? Was it easier to diagnose that group of disabled people or easier to diagnose that group of disabled people than autistic people in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s? Now, I think in general terms, the answer has to be yes, right? In general terms, it has to be yes. There's exceptions to every rule, but do you see what I'm saying? Okay, cool. So you're saying there's less people on the NDIS, less people who are vision impaired, hearing impaired, use a wheelchair, so there's less of them than autistic people. That doesn't make sense. Why is there so many? Do you think maybe it's because we're pretty set on diagnosing a lot of disabilities, right? Of course, they're all individual and different, but what I'm saying is medically, right? There's pretty clear tests, right? With autism, it changes by the week. The research is only starting. In my lifetime, we might not be at the point where we need to be. So there must be more autistic people, not because we know more about the brain now and we can properly diagnose it rather than misdiagnose girls and women and, with all these different things. It must be that, right? There must be more now, not because, because it's easy to diagnose, we learn more. No. There must be more because people think, if I'm autistic, I can rip off the government for insurance money. But of course, I've got to prove to them I'm autistic, right? So that's the first red flag. You've got to prove you're autistic. Then you've got to apply for the funding. Then you've got to prove you need it for certain things. Then you've got to get it and use it, right? And you can't just take you can't just take the funding and use it on something else. You've got to use it on what you've been given it to use. And if you don't, they won't give it to you the next year. So that argument doesn't make any sense. Do you see what I'm saying? It's utterly bizarre to me that that's the reason. Can you believe someone thought it made sense to not only put out some non-peer-reviewed paper that's saying it's plausible that there's more autistic people being diagnosed in Australia than other modern countries because of access to a disability insurance scheme? Putting that out is credible, right? And then the government would somehow potentially consider that as a way, or at least a loophole, or a justification as a way of reining in the access to autistic people. Really just because they're trying to control budgets here. This whole thing is just horrible. It doesn't make any sense. So many thoughts, and it's so hard to hang on to them. My brain is going way too fast for my mouth, and it's very frustrating. There's so many arguments there which just are so stupid. So there's more autistic people, not because it's just happened now. Everyone's just decided to be autistic, right? I'm pretty certain you don't qualify for the NDIS if you're self-diagnosed and just tell them, it's just my vibe, right? Not that there's anything wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But I'm saying from a government point of view, right? So look at it like this, yeah. People will go, so Australia was discovered in let's say 1788, right, by Captain Cook. So by the British. Australia was discovered in 1788. Okay, so that's when it started. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it means before that, it didn't exist. Okay, well, that's strange because the Indigenous Australians have been around for about 60,000 years. So presumably, and now let's switch the metaphor, presumably, there's always been autistic people. There's always been autism. It's just, at what point was it discovered? Was it acknowledged? Was it recognized? And then at that point there, we go back and we go, well, there was no one here. For 60,000 years, there was no There was no autistic people for 60,000 years. So why is there all of a sudden all these autistic people? That makes no sense. It's not the autism, right? Do you see what I'm saying? The autism was always there. Everest is another example. Do you think people weren't living on Everest or around Everest, Mount Everest, prior to it being discovered? So what are you saying? The day before it was discovered, there was nothing there, just flat Earth. Some guy's just having a bit of a stroll. Holy crap, what's that? That's biggish. That's biggish. Wow. I've just found it. What about the people living on it and around it for thousands of years prior? You see, this is a stupid argument. Oh, since the NDIS, more people are being autistic, so it must be because of the NDIS. And you understand how stupid that is. That doesn't make any sense. It's an utterly ridiculous argument. And again, if we want to talk about the core issue, this is a neurological, developmental condition, the brain. Yeah, I reckon more people are going to have access to knowledgeable, up-to-date healthcare practitioners who are able to properly diagnose them, whatever condition that may be. And that's not as good. That's worse than having women, girls, anyone misdiagnosed, undiagnosed, or turned away altogether. That's better. No, it's not. Do you see what I'm saying? This is an issue, guys. The idea that we can use an argument that access to funding is causing us an inappropriate spike in diagnosis of autistic kids. Like, seriously, do you really think it's harder to diagnose autistic kids now than 10 years ago? Of course it isn't. It's easier. Why? We know more. But hang on, the other countries aren't doing as well. That's because they clearly don't know as much or have a greater understanding or provide the right access. The infrastructure's not there. It's unthinkable that we could be good. It can't be us. I'm telling you one thing for sure. I'm part of the government, and I know. It cannot be that we're good. So it's got to be something else. Yeah, that's right. It must be our own. It must be Australian autistic people just doing it to rip us off. That's what it is. They're taking advantage of us, man. And that doesn't make it. That's not fair. I mean, I've looked at the stats. They die when they're 35. They have no jobs. They have no relationships. They have no housing. They're all in jail most of the time. Their lives are just bloody amazing already. And they're just taking advantage of us. Bloody autistic Australians. Give us a spell, mate. Seriously. I mean, honestly. What a load of crap. Blah, blah, blah. It's laughable. I'm done. Yeah, the bottom line is, this is the last thing, right? That they've set up an independent review of the NDIS. Why is it set up? To improve the well-being of Australians with disability and the scheme's sustainability. This is where we forget these two competing interests. So you want to improve the well-being of disabled people, and you want to improve the cost effectiveness, the sustainability of the NDIS. These are two competing forces here, guys. Governments are not voted in to make a profit. They're not a business, right? So either we can say this is not sustainable, it's gone, right? Or we're here to improve the lives of disabled people, and we have to work out how to make it sustainable without cutting this. Because at the moment, what they're doing is going, okay, well, we want to help people, we've got to be sustainable. So just stop paying autistic people so much money. They're the biggest. It must be because they're taking the piss. You see what I mean? Yeah. Good work, guys. It's laughable. What is the point? What is the point? Oh my God. Okay, it costs too much money. It costs too much money to help autistic people. I'm sorry, guys. There's too many of you. There's too many of you, and it costs us too much money. It's not sustainable. Okay, stop helping us. You weren't helping us 10 years ago, right? Oh no, we were. We were providing you others. We were providing you supports just in something else. But they're gone, mate. They're gone, right? Any kind of access to supports autistic people had prior to the NDIS, that's all gone. So now it's the NDIS or nothing, right? So it's not like you're doubling up here. If that's the truth, that's the truth. If you're saying there's too many autistic people asking for help, then you don't want to help disabled people. So stop helping disabled people. It's simple. You can't pick and choose. You can't say our lives are horrible and we want to help you, but we can't help you because there's too many of you and it costs too much money. These are cyclical arguments. Let's use this. Oh, there's a plausible link. More autistic people because there's support. This is, yeah. I'm really agitated and upset about this because I know that they may willingly and knowingly make it harder for autistic people with all manner of daily support and care needs. Based on the premise, they think there's some sort of like fringe of autistic people taking advantage of it. That doesn't even make any sense. Yeah. So, and yet ignoring all the obvious other factors involved here. Time, understanding, professionalism of our own personal domestic healthcare practitioners, right? Better than other countries. That's unthinkable. Not possible. Let's just let companies tell us you can charge $300 for a $50 chair, but blame the people who are on the scheme. What are you blaming us for? It's all these stupid corporations that are telling you what they're going to provide and how much it's going to cost. You tell them. And if you are telling them, why are you telling them it's $300 or a $50 chair or $70 an hour for a $30 an hour job? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway. Yeah. Help me help you. I mean, it's just, what is the point? What is the point? They just think it's a joke. And even use some, non-peer reviewed, like papery thing with just is bizarre to me. And this person who writes this paper, or these people, what's their motivation? What's the motivation here? Well, clearly the motivation is we have to find legitimate, plausible ways that the government can use to strip the funding for autistic people. It's simple. It's simple. That's the only motivation. What else is the motivation? To ruin the lives of autistic people further? It's already horrific. It's in a report. We're doing an agenda to fix it. It's all contradictory. What an absolute waste of my time.